The mighty Zitharan Empire had ruled the stars for centuries. Their ships traveled across galaxies, their warriors crushed entire civilizations, and their technology was far beyond anything most species could imagine. At the center of it all stood Queen Valara, the ruler of the Zitharans, feared and respected by millions. But tonight, everything changed. The attack came without warning. One moment, Valara was aboard her grand flagship, surrounded by her loyal guards. The next, alarms blared, and explosions rocked the ship. An ambush. The enemy had been waiting. A powerful alliance of rival species had come together, determined to destroy the Zitharan rule. Their fleets surrounded her forces, firing relentlessly. Valara's elite warriors fought back, but they were outnumbered. One by one, Zitharan ships exploded into flames. Valara clenched her fists as her advisors shouted around her. "We must retreat, my queen," one of them urged. "Never," she snapped. She was a ruler, a warrior. She would not flee like a coward. But then, a direct hit shook the flagship. Sparks flew. The ship's AI blared warnings. Critical damage detected. Valara's eyes widened as she realized the truth. They were losing. Her empire was burning. Before she could react, another explosion sent her flying. Everything turned to chaos. Smoke filled the air. Her guards rushed toward her, but it was too late. A blinding light, a deafening roar, then darkness. The crash. When Valara opened her eyes, she was no longer in space. The sky above her was dark, filled with unfamiliar stars. The sound of crackling fire reached her ears. She groaned, her body aching. Her ship had crashed. She tried to move but winced in pain. A deep wound ran across her side, purple Zitharan blood staining her once pristine armor. Her breathing was heavy. She was injured, stranded, and alone. Valara looked around. She had landed in a dense jungle. Massive trees loomed overhead, their leaves glowing faintly in the dark. Strange creatures moved in the shadows. She was on an unknown planet, hostile, wild, and dangerous. Her communicator was broken. No weapons, no soldiers, no empire. For the first time in her life, Queen Valara was powerless. A rustling sound made her tense. Something was approaching. She reached for a weapon, but she had nothing. Her sharp eyes scanned the darkness. Then she saw him, a human, a most unlikely encounter. The figure stepped into the light of the burning wreckage. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing old, rugged armor. His face was hardened, battle-worn, with piercing eyes that scanned the surroundings like a hunter. A large rifle was strapped to his back, and a knife rested at his side. Valara's heart pounded. Humans were primitive compared to Zitharans. They had only recently begun to explore deep space. And yet, there was something about this one. Something dangerous. The man studied her for a long moment. Then, to her shock, he sighed and crouched beside her. "You're lucky to be alive," he muttered. His voice was rough but calm. Valara's pride flared. "I do not need your help, human," she hissed, trying to push herself up. The pain was immediate. She gasped and fell back. The human shook his head. "Yeah, sure. Because bleeding out in the dirt is a great plan." Valara glared at him. Who was this man? How did he get here? And why was he helping her? Before she could ask, he reached into a small pack and pulled out a medkit. She froze. A human, treating the Zitharan. It was unthinkable. He ignored her stunned silence and examined her wound. "This is bad," he muttered, "but I've seen worse." Valara narrowed her eyes. "Who are you?" The man hesitated. Then he simply said, "Elias Carter." She had heard that name before. A mercenary, a human soldier who had fought in countless battles, known for surviving against impossible odds. But what was he doing here? "Why are you helping me?" she demanded. Elias gave her a sideways glance. "Because if I leave you here, you'll be dead by morning. And I don't like watching people die when I can stop it." His words confused her. No Zitharan would save an enemy, especially not a human. And yet here he was, saving her life. She did not understand him. But for now, she had no choice. If she wanted to survive, she needed this human. And so, Queen Valara, ruler of the once great Zitharan Empire, put her fate in the hands of Elias Carter, the most unexpected ally in the universe. The night air was thick with the scent of burning metal and damp earth. Strange sounds echoed through the jungle. Distant howls, rustling leaves, the faint clicking of unseen creatures. Queen Valara had never felt so vulnerable. She, the ruler of the mighty Zitharan Empire, was now helpless, wounded, and at the mercy of a human. Elias Carter worked quickly. His hands were rough but steady as he pressed a bandage against her wound. Valara tensed, her sharp teeth clenched in pain, but she refused to make a sound. She would not show weakness, not in front of a lesser species. Elias glanced at her. "You're lucky," he muttered. "The cut's deep, but nothing vital is damaged. You'll live." Valara narrowed her eyes. "I did not ask for your help." Elias let out a short laugh. "No, you didn't. But I helped anyway." He finished wrapping the bandage, then sat back on his heels, watching her. "You're not used to this, are you? Depending on someone else." Valara stiffened. He was right, but she would never admit it. She was a queen, a warrior. She commanded entire fleets. She did not take orders. She did not rely on others, especially not humans. Yet here she was. She studied Elias carefully. He was unlike the humans she had seen before. Most were weak, desperate to prove themselves. But this one was different. His movements were sharp, precise. His eyes were always scanning the area, as if expecting an attack at any moment. "Why are you here, human?" she asked finally. Elias leaned back against a broken tree trunk. "Crashed here 6 months ago. My ship got hit by some pirates. Lost my crew." His voice was calm, but there was something behind it, something dark. Valara frowned. "And yet, you survived." Elias smirked. "Yeah, that's what humans do. We survive. The human way." Valara didn't respond, but his words lingered in her mind. Humans were weak, but they were stubborn. That was something even the Zitharan generals had admitted. She tried to sit up, ignoring the burning pain in her side. "I need to contact my people, my empire." "Your empire's gone," Elias interrupted. Silence. Valara's chest tightened. She hated the way he said it, so blunt, so final, as if her great empire was nothing but dust in the wind. She turned to glare at him. "You do not know that." Elias met her gaze. "I do. Your ships were burning in orbit when I saw you crash. If anyone made it out, they're long gone." His words were a knife to her pride. She wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong. But deep down, she knew he wasn't. She had seen the battle, seen the flames. The Zitharan Empire, once unbreakable, had fallen in a single night. She swallowed hard. "I am the last one left." Elias stood up and slung his rifle over his shoulder. "Look, I don't care if you're a queen or a beggar. Out here, that doesn't matter. You've got 2 choices. Stay here and die, or come with me." Valara stared at him. "Why would I trust a human?" Elias shrugged. "You don't have to. But trust me on this. This planet doesn't care who you are. If you're alone, you're dead." She hated how logical his words were. She hated that he was right. Finally, after a long silence, she forced herself to speak. "Fine. Lead the way." The jungle's dangers. They walked through the thick jungle, moving slowly so Valara could keep up. The pain in her side was still sharp, but she forced herself forward. She would not be weak. Elias moved with ease, pushing aside vines and stepping over roots without making a sound. He was a soldier, that much was clear. Every movement was controlled, every action deliberate. Valara hated to admit it, but he was impressive. Suddenly, Elias stopped and raised a hand. Valara followed his gaze. Up ahead, the jungle opened into a clearing, where a massive creature lay sleeping. It was reptilian, with thick, scaly skin and a mouth full of razor-sharp teeth. It was at least 20 feet long. Elias turned to her and whispered, "That's a Ravager. If it wakes up, we're dead." Valara's grip tightened. She had fought great battles. She had commanded fleets, but never had she faced a beast like this. Elias motioned for her to stay close. Step by step, they moved carefully around the sleeping monster. One wrong move, and it would be over. Valara's heart pounded. This was not the battlefield she was used to. No weapons, no warships, just her, a human, and the unknown. They were almost past the creature when suddenly, a twig snapped beneath Valara's foot. The Ravager's eyes snapped open. Elias cursed. "Run!" The human's strength. The beast roared and lunged. Trees cracked as it moved. Valara stumbled, her whelm slowing her down. She was not fast enough. Then, Elias was there. He grabbed her arm and pulled her forward with incredible strength. She had never felt such power from a human before. His movements were pure instinct, pure survival. The Ravager's jaws snapped inches behind them as Elias yanked Valara into a small cave. Darkness swallowed them. The creature roared outside, sniffing the air. It paced for a moment, then, after what felt like an eternity, it turned away and disappeared into the jungle. Valara was breathing heavily. She turned to Elias, shocked. "You saved me again." Elias gave a tired smirk. "Yeah, get used to it." Valara didn't know what to say. For the first time in her life, she realized something terrifying. She owed a human her life. Valara sat inside the dark cave, her breath still uneven. The Ravager's distant roars faded into the jungle, but her heart continued to pound. This was not how things were supposed to be. She was queen of the Zitharans, ruler of an empire that had once stretched across the stars. She had commanded fleets, crushed enemies, and stood above all lesser species. And yet here she was, weak, wounded, and saved by a human. Elias Carter sat near the entrance of the cave, checking his rifle. His face was calm, as if nearly being eaten alive was just another day for him. Valara frowned. "You seem unbothered." Elias glanced at her. "I've seen worse." She studied him in the dim light. He was unlike any human she had met before. His movements were controlled, his breathing steady. He was a survivor. She hated to admit it, but right now she needed him. The harsh reality. Valara shifted slightly, but pain shot through her side. She winced, trying not to show it. Elias noticed. "You should rest," he said. "You lost a lot of blood." "I do not take orders from humans," she snapped. Elias raised an eyebrow. "Then bleed out. Your choice." Valara clenched her jaw. She had never met someone so disrespectful. Did he not understand who she was? But in this jungle, her title meant nothing. Elias rummaged through his bag and tossed her a small metal container. "Drink." Valara eyed it suspiciously. "What is it?" "Water." She hesitated, then took a sip. It was bitter and warm, but it eased the dryness in her throat. Elias leaned back against the cave wall. "You ever survived in the wild before?" Valara scoffed. "I was trained in combat from birth. I have fought in wars. I have conquered planets. Of course, I can survive." Elias smirked. "That's so. How many jungles have you lived in?" She fell silent. "None." Elias nodded as if he had expected that answer. "Yeah, thought so." Valara glared at him. "You think I am weak." Elias met her gaze. "I think you don't know how to survive without an army." Lessons in survival. The next morning, the jungle was alive with sound. Alien birds screeched from the trees. Distant creatures growled through the thick undergrowth. Elias stood outside the cave, inspecting the area. Valara stepped out, feeling stronger but still weak from her injury. "We need food," Elias said. "Water too. There's a river a few miles from here. We move fast. Stay quiet." Valera straightened. "I will lead." Elias chuckled. "No offense, Your Highness, but you don't even know where the river is." Valera's face darkened. "I am not helpless." "Didn't say you were," Elias replied. "But out here, it's not about pride. It's about staying alive." She hated how calm he was, how confident, but deep down, she knew he was right. They moved through the jungle, careful to avoid the larger predators. Valera was used to commanding from a warship, not sneaking through dirt and vines like a prey animal. But Elias moved with skill, silent and controlled. Every few minutes, he would stop, listening to the sounds around them. He would glance up at the trees, check the ground for tracks. He knew how to read this world in a way she could not. Finally, they reached a small clearing. A strange, four-legged creature was grazing near a fallen tree. It had thick scales and large black eyes. "Food," Elias whispered. Valera frowned. "That thing." Elias nodded. "We kill it. We eat." Valera scoffed. "I am a warrior, not a hunter." Elias smirked. "Out here, same thing. The hunt." Elias pulled out his knife and motioned for her to stay back. He moved carefully, his steps light on the ground. Then he struck. The creature let out a high-pitched screech, kicking wildly. Elias held firm, driving the blade deep. With a final cry, the beast fell silent. Valera watched in surprise. Humans were known for their brute force, but this was skill. Elias wiped his blade and looked at her. "Ever killed your own food before?" Valera lifted her chin. "I have killed thousands in battle." Elias grinned. "Yeah, but have you ever skinned something and cooked it over a fire?" Valera paused. "No." Elias chuckled. "Guess you're about to learn." The fire and the truth. That night, as the fire crackled, Elias cooked the meat while Valera sat nearby. The smell was strange, but not unpleasant. She watched him work, his hands quick and practiced. He made survival look easy. She finally spoke. "You are not like the humans I have seen before." Elias glanced at her. "Yeah. And what kind of humans have you seen?" "Weak. Desperate. Always looking up at the stars, dreaming of being more." Elias nodded. "Yeah, we do that. And sometimes we get crushed by bigger empires. But you know what?" Valera raised an eyebrow. "What?" "We don't stop." He looked at her, eyes sharp. "We keep fighting. We keep surviving. You think humans are weak? Maybe. But we don't break." Valera was silent. She had always seen humans as lesser beings. But Elias Carter, he was different. He had survived in this wild, unforgiving place for 6 months alone. He had saved her life. Twice. For the first time, she wondered, had she been wrong about them? Elias tossed her a piece of cooked meat. "Eat up, Your Highness. We've got a long road ahead." Valera caught it and stared at him. Then, slowly, she took a bite. It wasn't terrible, and as the fire burned between them, for the first time in her life, Queen Valar of the Zitherans listened to a human. The fire crackled softly in the night, casting flickering shadows on the cave walls. Valara chewed slowly, her sharp teeth tearing through the cooked meat. It was strange, eating something that wasn't prepared by royal chefs, but hunger left no room for pride. Elias sat across from her, sharpening his knife with a steady rhythm. His calmness irritated her. How could a human be so relaxed in such a dangerous place? She studied him carefully. His movements were precise, efficient. He had no wasted motion, no hesitation. He had survived here for 6 months alone. That was no accident. Finally, she broke the silence. "You are not what I expected." Elias glanced up, smirking. "Yeah, what did you expect?" She thought for a moment. "Weakness." Elias let out a short laugh. Well, sorry to disappoint. Valera frowned. Do not mistake my words. Humans are weaker than Zitherans. You are slower, your bodies are fragile, and your technology is far behind ours. Elias raised an eyebrow. And yet, here I am, alive. And here you are, eating food I caught and cooked. Valera narrowed her eyes, but she had no response. He was right. She had led armies, commanded starships, conquered planets. But out here, none of that mattered. She was only alive because of him. The jungle's warning. A low growl rumbled from the darkness outside. Valera's sharp ears twitched. She turned her head slightly, scanning the jungle beyond the cave entrance. Elias immediately stopped sharpening his knife. His hand moved instinctively to his rifle. You hear that? Valera nodded. Something is watching us. Elias cursed under his breath. He motioned for her to move behind the fire while he crept toward the cave entrance. The jungle was thick with sound. Buzzing insects, rustling leaves, distant howls. But something else was out there. Something waiting. Valera's claws twitched. If she were at full strength, she could fight. But her womb still ached, slowing her reflexes. That frustrated her more than anything. Elias peered into the darkness. Then he saw them. Two glowing yellow eyes staring back. The attack. The creature lunged. It moved like a shadow, silent and deadly. Elias barely had time to roll aside before massive claws raked across the ground where he had been standing. Valera leaped up despite the pain in her side. What is it? Elias fired a shot into the darkness. The muzzle flash illuminated the beast, a night stalker. It was huge, covered in dark, scale-like fur, with elongated limbs and razor-sharp fangs. Its long tail lashed behind it, knocking aside trees. Elias fired again, but the creature was fast. It dodged, vanishing into the jungle. Valera cursed. It is hunting us. Elias gritted his teeth. Then we hunt it first. The plan. Elias moved quickly, pulling something from his pack, a small, makeshift trap. He glanced at Valera. You up for this? Valera's pride flared. I am always ready for battle. Elias smirked. Good. Here's the plan. He explained quickly. The Night Stalker relied on its speed, but it had one weakness. It attacked in straight lines, using momentum to overpower its prey. If they could force it into a confined space, it would be vulnerable. Valera listened carefully, a human giving battle strategies to a Zitharan queen. A few days ago, she would have been insulted. But now she understood the truth. Elias wasn't just surviving. He was adapting. And if she wanted to live, she had to do the same. The battle. They moved quickly, setting up the trap near a narrow path between two trees. The moment it was ready, Elias stepped out into the open. He fired into the jungle, a deliberate shot meant to provoke. It worked. The Night Stalker roared and charged. Elias ran, leading it straight toward the trap. The moment he passed between the trees, he dove aside. The creature didn't have time to react. As soon as it crossed the trap, sharp spikes hidden in the dirt snapped upward, piercing its legs. The beast howled in pain, thrashing wildly. Valera didn't hesitate. She lunged forward, her claws flashing. She slashed deep across its throat, severing muscle and bone. The Night Stalker collapsed. A final, shuddering breath escaped its body. The jungle fell silent. The aftermath. Valera stood over the dead beast, her chest rising and falling with exertion. It had been a long time since she had fought like this. Elias wiped sweat from his brow. Well, that was fun. Valera turned to him. You are a skilled hunter. Elias chuckled. You're not bad yourself, Your Highness. Valera hesitated. She had always seen humans as weak, inferior. But now, she saw something else. Strength. Not in raw power, not in technology, but in sheer determination. Elias didn't have fangs, claws, or natural armor, but he fought like he belonged in this jungle. She looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Perhaps I judged your species too quickly." Elias smirked. "Yeah, what gave it away?" She didn't answer. Instead, she turned back toward the cave, stepping over the fallen Night Stalker. For the first time in her life, Queen Valera began to respect a human. The jungle was silent after the battle, except for the crackling fire inside the cave. The dead Night Stalker lay where it had fallen, its dark blood soaking into the earth. Valera stood over the creature, her breathing steady but deep. She could still feel the adrenaline rushing through her veins. Elias sat nearby, cleaning his rifle. "Not bad," he said, glancing up at her. "You handled yourself well." Valera didn't respond immediately. She wasn't sure how to feel. For her entire life, she had believed humans were weak, a species destined to kneel before the Zitharan Empire. And yet, here she was, standing in a jungle on a hostile world, alive because of a human. Elias had not only survived against the Night Stalker, but he had planned and executed a strategy that even a Zitharan warrior would respect. She finally turned to him. "You are more dangerous than you look, human." Elias smirked. "I get that a lot." A growing understanding. After dealing with the creature's corpse, they sat near the fire, eating what remained of their previous kill. Valera studied Elias carefully. He was unlike any human she had met before. He lacked the desperation she had seen in most of his kind. He was confident, but not arrogant. He was strategic, but not cruel. He was different. She decided to ask what had been on her mind for a while. "Why are you here?" Elias chewed for a moment before answering. "Ship crash." Valera narrowed her eyes. "You were alone." He nodded. "It was a scouting mission. Just me and my ship. Got shot down by someone who wasn't happy to see me." She frowned. "Who?" Elias exhaled slowly. "I don't know. Could have been pirates. Could have been mercenaries. Hell, could have been your people." Valera's eyes flashed. "My empire does not waste resources on lone human scouts." Elias smirked. "Yeah, but not everyone follows the rules, do they?" She went silent. He had a point. Not all Zitharan commanders followed protocol. Some were ambitious, ruthless. Could one of them have shot him down? A disturbing truth. The next morning, Elias climbed to a high point in the jungle to get a better look at the surrounding land. Valera followed, moving with ease despite her healing wound. From the top of a rocky outcrop, they could see the dense jungle stretching for miles. In the distance, something caught Elias's eye. "Smoke. Looks like a camp," he muttered. Valera's sharp vision focused on the source. "That is no camp." Elias frowned. "What is it then?" Valera's expression darkened. "A Zitharan warship." Elias stiffened. "So your people are here?" She shook her head. "That ship does not fly Zitharan royal banners. It belongs to warlords, rogue commanders who defy the Empire." Elias sighed. "Great, so we're stuck on a planet with space bandits." Valera clenched her fists. She knew of these warlords. They were former generals who had turned against the Empire, ruling over stolen worlds like tyrants. If they had a ship here, it meant they were up to something. She looked at Elias. "If they find us, they will not ask questions. They will kill us both." Elias let out a low whistle. "Guess we better not get caught then." Spying on the warlords. That night, they moved toward the warlords' camp, keeping to the shadows. Valera led the way, her instincts sharp. Despite being human, Elias moved with surprising silence. He was a hunter, just like her. They reached a high vantage point overlooking the warlords' landing site. The massive Zitharan warship loomed over the jungle, its dark metal hull reflecting the moonlight. Elias peered through his rifle's scope. "I count at least a dozen guards." Valera's eyes narrowed. "No, there are more. Some are hiding in the trees." Elias nodded. "What are they doing here?" Valera focused on the soldiers below. They were unloading crates from the ship, weapons, supplies. Then she saw something that made her blood run cold. Cages. Inside them were other aliens, prisoners. She growled low in her throat. They are slavers. Elias's jaw tightened. Your people do that. Valera shook her head. Not the Empire. The warlords. They take what they want. They sell the weak. They bring dishonor to the Scytheran name. Elias exhaled sharply. So what do we do about it? An unlikely alliance. Valera turned to him, her eyes fierce. We stop them. Elias blinked. Hold on. We? Valera crossed her arms. You fight well. You are resourceful. And you are already their enemy, as am I. Elias chuckled. Let me guess. You don't like slavers. Valera's voice was cold. I despise them. Elias considered for a moment. All right, Queen. I'm in. But we're outnumbered, and I don't have enough ammo to fight an army. Valera's lips curled into a dangerous smile. Then we do not fight like an army. We fight like hunters. Elias grinned. Now you're speaking my language. The plan begins. The two of them retreated into the jungle, forming their plan. They would move in the shadows, strike when least expected, use the jungle itself as a weapon. Elias crafted traps while Valera studied the patrol patterns of the warlord soldiers. They were skilled, but arrogant. They believed themselves untouchable. They would soon learn otherwise. Valera looked at Elias. You are not like the other humans I have known. Elias smirked. And you're not like the other aliens I've met. They clasped hands, sealing their unlikely alliance. Tomorrow, the warlords would face a human and a Scytheran queen. And they would regret it. The jungle was alive with the sounds of the night, chirping insects, distant roars of unseen beasts, and the rustling of leaves in the wind. But beneath the natural noise, there was something else. The warlord soldiers, Valera and Elias, crouched behind thick foliage, watching the Scytheran slavers move through their camp. Their armor gleamed under the moonlight, their weapons strapped to their sides. Elias counted their numbers, too many for a direct fight. Valera nodded. Then we do not fight directly. She had fought in many battles, commanded fleets, and led ground invasions. But this was different. This was a hunt. And Elias, despite being human, was proving himself to be an excellent hunter. He had already set several traps, sharp wooden spikes hidden in the dirt, tripwires connected to falling logs, and even small explosives made from salvaged materials. They didn't have the numbers to win in a fair fight, so they wouldn't fight fair. The first strike. Elias took position in a tree, his rifle aimed at the first target. Valera crouched behind a fallen log, her claws ready. They waited. A group of 3 soldiers moved past them, unaware of the danger. Elias exhaled slowly and pulled the trigger. The silenced shot struck the first soldier in the neck. He fell without a sound. The second turned in confusion, just as Valera leaped from the shadows. Her claws slashed across his throat, ending him in an instant. The third soldier barely had time to react before Elias's knife found his back. Within seconds, all 3 were down. Valera wiped the blood from her claws. Efficient. Elias smirked. Told you. I don't like wasting time. The trap is set. They dragged the bodies into the bushes and moved deeper into the camp's outer perimeter. Elias whispered, time for the fun part. He led Valera to a clearing where he had set his most dangerous trap. A narrow path ran between 2 thick trees, an easy route for patrols. But hidden beneath the leaves and dirt were sharpened wooden stakes. Above them, tied with vines, was a massive rock, ready to drop. They hid and waited. A patrol of 5 soldiers approached, their boots crunching against the dirt. The leader raised his hand, signaling for a stop. Something feels wrong. Too late. One soldier stepped forward, right onto the hidden spikes. He screamed as the sharp wood pierced his leg. The others turned in alarm, drawing their weapons. But before they could react, Elias cut a vine, releasing the rock. It came crashing down, slamming into two soldiers, and knocking them out instantly. Valera sprinted forward, using the distraction. She leaped onto the remaining two soldiers, her claws tearing through their armor. Within moments, the patrol was eliminated. Elias grinned. I think they're gonna start noticing. Valera looked toward the main camp. Good. Let them. The camp awakens. Shouts echoed through the camp as the warlord's soldiers discovered the missing patrols. A high-ranking officer, a Zitharan with a jagged scar across his face, barked orders. We are under attack. Spread out and find them. Valera and Elias watched from the trees. Elias muttered, They have no idea where we are. Valera's eyes gleamed. That is our advantage. As the soldiers spread out, Elias whispered, We need to free the prisoners. Valera agreed. She hated the warlords for what they had done to her people. Slavery was an insult to the Zitharan name, and she would not stand for it. The rescue. Moving through the shadows, they reached the cages where the prisoners were held. Inside were a mix of species, humans, Zitharans, and other alien races. Their eyes widened as they saw Elias and Valera approach. One human prisoner gasped, You're a Zitharan. He looked at Elias. And you're with her. Elias smirked. Long story. Now, let's get you out. Valera tore through the metal locks with her claws while Elias covered her. The prisoners spilled out, their faces a mix of fear and hope. One Zitharan, a former warrior, stepped forward. I can fight. Valera handed him a weapon from a fallen guard. Then fight. The final assault. With the prisoners armed, the battle began. Elias led the humans, using guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run attacks, ambushes, and sniper shots from the shadows. Valera led the Zitharans, fighting with pure strength and fury. The camp erupted into chaos. The warlords' forces were strong, but they were not prepared for a coordinated rebellion. Within minutes, several key structures were in flames. The enemy's numbers dwindled. The warlord arrives. Then, a deep booming voice echoed through the camp. Enough. A massive Zitharan stepped forward. His armor was lined with gold, his eyes filled with cruelty. The warlord himself. He held a massive blade, its edge glowing with energy. Who dares challenge me? Valera stepped forward, her claws flexing. I do. The warlord laughed. A Zitharan fighting against her own kind. Pathetic. Valera's voice was like ice. You are no Zitharan. You are a disgrace. The warlord roared and charged at her. Valera met him head-on. The final clash. Their blades clashed, sparks flying. Valera dodged his powerful swings, moving with speed and precision. The warlord was strong, but he was slow, arrogant, predictable. Valera saw her opening. She spun low, slicing through the weak points in his armor. He staggered, roaring in pain. Elias took the shot. A single bullet struck the warlord's knee, making him collapse. Valera didn't hesitate. With one final strike, she ended him. Silence fell over the camp. The warlord's soldiers, seeing their leader dead, fled into the jungle. Victory and a new path. The prisoners cheered. They were free. Valera stood over the fallen warlord, breathing heavily. Elias walked up beside her. That was intense. She looked at him. You fought well. Elias grinned. So did you, Your Highness. Valera smirked. Perhaps we make a good team. Elias laughed. You're just figuring that out now. She looked at the freed prisoners, then back at Elias. The Empire must know about this. We must stop the warlords completely. Elias nodded. Then I guess our fight isn't over yet. Valera extended her hand. Are you with me? Elias shook it. Always. The hunt was over. But the war had just begun. The jungle was quiet once again. The flames from the warlord's camp flickered in the distance, casting long shadows on the trees. The battle was over, and the prisoners were free. Valera stood over the warlord's lifeless body, her claws still stained with his blood. She had fought many battles in her life, but this one was different. This time, she had fought alongside a human. Elias stepped beside her, reloading his rifle. He glanced at the fallen warlord. Well, that was fun. Valera raised an eyebrow. You call this fun? Elias smirked. Hey, anytime I get to take down bad guys and not die, I call that a win. She shook her head, but she couldn't hide her amusement. Humans were strange creatures. The aftermath. The freed prisoners gathered around, their expressions a mix of relief and exhaustion. A Scythian warrior approached Valera. He had once been a proud soldier of the Empire, but months in captivity had weakened him. You are a queen, he said, bowing his head. You saved us. Valera's expression hardened. The Empire should have saved you. She turned to Elias. This is not over. These warlords, there are more of them. If we do nothing, others will suffer. Elias nodded. So what's the plan? Valera glanced at the freed prisoners. We take the ship. Seizing the warship, the warlord's remaining forces had fled, but the massive warship still sat in the middle of the jungle. If they could take it, they could leave this cursed planet and bring the fight to the rest of the warlords. Elias smirked. Stealing a spaceship, now that does sound fun. They moved quickly. The warlord's ship was lightly guarded, most of the soldiers having abandoned it when their leader fell. Valera led the charge, using her knowledge of Scythian ships to disable security systems. Elias and the freed prisoners took care of the remaining guards. Within minutes, they had full control of the warship. Elias sat in the pilot's chair, running his hands over the controls. Never flown one of these before. Valera narrowed her eyes. Can you fly it? Elias grinned. I'll figure it out. The ship rumbled to life, its engines humming. The massive vessel lifted from the jungle floor, breaking through the clouds and into the endless blackness of space. A dangerous path. As they soared through the stars, Valera stood on the bridge, staring out at the vast emptiness before them. She had spent her life believing humans were weak. Yet here she was, trusting one with her life. Elias walked up beside her. You're thinking about something. Valera didn't look at him. I was wrong about your kind. Elias raised an eyebrow. Oh. She turned to face him. I believe humans were weak, that they could never match the strength of the Scythian Empire. She paused. But you are not weak. You are resourceful. Elias smirked. I'll take that as a compliment. She studied him for a moment. Why did you help me? Elias shrugged. Because it was the right thing to do. Valera frowned. That is not an answer a warrior gives. Elias chuckled. Maybe I'm not just a warrior. She nodded slowly. No, you are something else. The fight ahead. The ship's radar beeped. Valera turned to the screen, her eyes narrowing. Scythian ships, she said. They are patrolling near the outer system. Elias frowned. Are they with the Empire, or more warlords? Valera studied the signals. Empire. Elias exhaled. That could be good, or really bad. Valera turned to him. I will speak to them. If they are loyal to the Empire, they will listen. Elias crossed his arms. And if they're not? She flexed her claws. Then we fight. The warship sped toward the fleet, its weapons armed. The warlords had fallen, but a greater battle was just beginning. The galaxy would soon learn that a human and a Scythian queen were not to be underestimated.